Hello, welcome to Train Signal. This is the Managing Tasks lesson in the System Center 2012 Operations Manager Training course. So tasks, well, they're things that you can perform in Operations Manager. Specifically, you can automate routine functions from within the Operations Manager console. For example, you could automatically have something take place in response to an alert that's raised on the console. Or you can add a function right to the monitoring page that says, I want to do X. And by adding this task, it means you don't have to go out to the individual machine and do something on that particular machine. You can start performing these operations right from the Operations Manager console. This is another way by which Operations Manager can reduce ongoing costs because it means you don't have to dispatch someone to a server room, and you can start monitoring things and actually performing remediation functions right from the console and potentially automatically. Tasks can reduce the amount of time that it takes to resolve an alert. So, for example, you could have a task that says, okay, if I'm running low on disk space, I'm going to go delete all of the IIS log files from that machine in order to get file space back. Now, that's not a good idea because you may want to keep your IIS files around, but that's one thing you could do with a task that would automatically respond to an alert so that an administrator didn't have to get involved. Tasks can help you maintain a high availability level for every service. So let's say a service quits unexpectedly and it's a service that's been identified as critical. You can tell Operations Manager to proactively go, well, I guess reactively in some ways, but proactively to you, go and attempt to restart that service. Basically, this can impact the bottom line through faster service resolution. Anytime you can resolve an issue faster and easier, the company is saving money. So, what are tasks? Well, in a very nebulous way, tasks are either automations or shortcuts that are created in Operations Manager to perform some predefined function. In other words, tasks are things that do things, which I realize is extremely nebulous, but that's really, from a definition standpoint, the best way I can put it. So maybe this will help. Let's look at some examples. We have some task types. First of all, we have what are called agent tasks. An agent task performs an action on a client. For example, getting a list of running processes from a client computer. You would instruct the agent on the Operations Manager client, not the server, but on the client to which the Operations Manager server is connected, to pull a list of all the services or all the processes from a computer and return it to Operations Manager. In this case, the Operations Manager server is telling the client to do something. It's specifically saying, I want the agent to give me a list of processes. That is an agent task. That's a task that's delegated to the agent by the Operations Manager server. But we also have what are called console tasks. And these are actions that you run on the Operations Manager server or from the console. For example, establish a remote desktop connection to a managed client. That's something that's happening from Operations Manager. It's not telling the agent software to do anything. This is a normal Windows function. All that's happening is you're able to ease the administrative experience a little bit because you can just say connect to the client computer using RDP. But as soon as you tell Operations Manager to do something that requires agent interaction, then that becomes an agent task. Tasks can be run from a command line or driven by pre-written scripts that you write. There's lots of different ways that you can get tasks to work. Now, tasks are also included in a whole lot of management packs. Otherwise, it'd be hard to get all kinds of information back from some of the systems because tasks are used to do some of those, to perform some of those operations. What we're going to do is create a task targeted at all managed servers that displays a list of running tasks and processes along with associated services. And there's the command line function that we're going to use in order to make this task work. So, without further ado, it's time to hop on over to the Operations Manager console and create a task. As you can see, I'm back over in the Operations Manager console. This time I'm in the authoring area, and I've selected tasks under Management Pack Objects. And there's a very good reason for that. It's because we're going to create a task. So I'm going to right-click Tasks and choose Create a New Task. The first question you're asked is, what kind of a task do you want to create? Well, if you think about what we're trying to accomplish here, we want to tell a monitored system to return specific information back to the console. Therefore, we're instructing the agent to carry out some instructions. Therefore, it's an agent task. And in this case, it's going to be a command line task. As is the case with everything we create, we have to choose a management pack to store this particular object. So we're going to create a new management pack, and I'm going to call it Custom Tasks. Pretty original, I know. We'll click the Create button, and you'll see that we now have a command line custom task, and we're just waiting for the console to catch up with us. And as soon as it does, we're going to click Next to move on in the process. But it will take Operations Manager just a minute to create that management pack that we need for this lesson. So now we'll click Next. The task name is going to be Display All Running Tasks. And let's preface it with custom, just because we want to make sure it's easy, it stands out. Now we have to choose a target kind of object. Now, what kind of an object can we get a task list from? Well, we get it from Windows computers. So we're going to choose Windows Computer Object and click OK. And click Next. What is a full path to our file we want to use? Well, I like to use, when I can, %windir%. Now, you could also just do C:\Windows, but the problem you have there is if there's a machine that does not have Windows installed into a directory called Windows, then this process won't work. %windir% tells the system, use whatever installation directory Windows is using in this space. So it's sort of a variable, a wildcard. This way, you never have the wrong Windows installation directory. So I've told that I want to run tasklist.exe, which is located in Windows System 32. And I want to use a /svc parameter in order to get a list of services that are running against each individual process that gets returned. And then I'll click Create. Now remember how I'm always saying that patience is a virtue? This time, patience doesn't matter. We go right to the monitoring area, theoretically. There we go. Go to Windows Computers, right there. And you're going to see over in the right-hand column here in Tasks, well, look at that. Custom, Display All Running Tasks. Right there under Windows Computer Tasks. Now, notice it's under Windows Computer Tasks. That's not a coincidence. We targeted this task at Windows Computer Objects. That's why we had to choose that Windows Computer option when we created the task. So we'll click it. Right now we have the server named File1 selected. That's why it asks, do you want to run the task on that target? We'll use the predefined run as account, which is what's being used all along the way here for File1. And then we'll click Run. Now you're going to see that we've got success. And here's the output from that command. So, by creating our own task, we're able to run a custom process to return a list of tasks, running tasks, along with their associated services from one of our machines out in the environment. Not too bad. In fact, I think it's a pretty easy process, to be perfectly honest. And that's everything that we have to do with tasks. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.